Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonja Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
Yeah, yo, it's game time, ain't no messing around. Huddle Sports Network, the best in town. From NFL rumors to the latest trends, we got all your sports, just tune in, my friends. Catch us on Roku, Fire Stick, take your pick. Facebook, YouTube, where the action's slick. Daily shows that drop like a bomb. From 10 to 11, it's Ken and Ken, stay calm. Huddle up, catch the vibe, feel the rush. Get your news, get your fills in the clutch. Over 27 podcasts, we breaking it down. Join the team, Huddle Sports, wear the crown. Live every weekday, it's how we roll. Lions Talk with Jeremy B, we taking a stroll. From 11 to 12, don't miss a beat. We break down the game, make the info sweet. The Daily Huddle Podcast, noon to 1. CST Zone, we're just having fun. Toss your doubts, we bring the facts. Tune into the Huddle.
Good morning and welcome to the Mac and Jack Show. I'm with Jack and I'm Sonja. You all probably know by now. Pretty soon we'll be changing the name of the show, right, Jack?
Yes, Sonja, that new opening, we can't just gear it to the old timers like myself. We got to gear it more to young people. I mean, that opening, is perfect for my generation.
Yes, perfect. I'm so glad to know you like that, Jack. And good to see you back.
I do like it. I actually do like it. I'm being serious.
Good. That was shout out to the Huddle Sports Network, of course, National Streaming Sports Network and Elite Sports and Entertainment, all of our host companies this morning. Jack, we always go through this lull of sports, and it's this time of season, lowest rating viewership of playoffs ever. So we're just going to touch on the playoffs and just touch it and leave it alone. I mean, Jack, what are your thoughts?
Yes, Sonja, that shouldn't be the case because the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder tied up one game apiece. It was 2-0, and the outcome was inevitable. I can understand that, but it's 1-up. The opening game had the lowest ratings. I'm kind of a little bored too. Something about OKC, SGA is the quietest superstar in the game. You have Chet Holmgren, highly efficient, Jay Williams there. But we tried to have a narrative with Tyrese Halliburton, and the Pacers and his dad. But something about it doesn't quite have the zip. And Halliburton's not a superstar type player. And I don't want anyone to argue that he is. He's a very, very, very good player. Okay, you could say he's a star if you want, but he's a lower level star, not one of these like mega stars where you're gonna want to tune in. It's not like must ratings, to watch him by any means. But look, if the Pacers win tonight and they get up 2-1, this series is going to change, Sonja, as far as the perception and the interest. Because now we're going to think, the Pacers could win this thing if they go up 2-1. Any team that goes up 2-1, we have to take it extremely seriously. And going into this series, I felt OKC was going to win it in 4 or 5 games. I know the Pacers stunned OKC in the opening game, coming back from 15 points in the fourth period and pulling the game out at the end on a Halliburton shot. and everyone got excited. But I kind of compare this series to when the Philadelphia 76ers with Allen Iverson played the mighty Los Angeles Lakers. And the Sixers heroically stole the opening game. They actually won and were doing well for a while in game 2, but they couldn't quite maintain it. So to me, unless Indiana wins this game 3, I, I wouldn't be surprised if OKC wins the next 3 games. I mean, they should win this, I think, in 5, 6 games. I don't think it's going 7. But if the Pacers win tonight, all bets are off. It opens things out, and the series becomes really, more must watching than it actually is at the moment.
Yeah, it's so odd. A lot of people comparing that to the Philadelphia 76ers game. Of course, shout out to Allen Iverson, the answer, just celebrated his 50th birthday a couple of days ago and having a big party in Philadelphia this weekend, black tie event. He's been putting it all over social media. He's actually my favorite NBA player of all time, Jack. So that's how I keep up with him. And welcome to the 50s club, AI. But definitely that, like you said, the significant development is whichever team is going to win this game, to take that 2-1 lead. It just almost looks like they're going to be the ones predicted to win.
No, not if it's Indiana. No, not if it's
not
Indiana.
if it's Indiana.
No,
so you're going to go the opposite.
OKC could then win the next 3 games. I'm saying for Indiana to win this series, it's crucial that they win this game 3 because OKC's the better team. But if they jump up on OKC 2-1 and they have game 4 at home, the Pacers, it all of a sudden takes on a new life, this series. And listen, it's 1-up. So technically speaking, it's anyone's series. I just feel OKC is clearly the better team. That's what they have going for them. You could talk about momentum. You could talk about intangibles. You could talk about luck. You could talk about anything could happen in a short series, but the better team is usually always going to prevail. But if you shorten a series, now all of a sudden anything could happen. If you make it the best 2 out of 3, it doesn't favor the superior team the way 4 out of 7 would. The longer body of work favors a team like the Knicks and the Celtics, Sonja. Over an 82-game span, the Celtics are a better team than the Knicks. But if you make it a 4 out of 7 series, a 3 out of 5, especially a 2 out of 3, all of a sudden, anyone can beat anyone else.
Yeah, that's true. And good morning to you, 1A Cheek 3 Toes, Bistrilla. Thank you for tuning in and sharing this morning. Yeah, Jack, I wholeheartedly agree. Let's segue into the next fiasco of the NBA they got going. Of course, Tom Thibodeau, the Knicks coach, fired despite them going to the playoffs here. But there's some issues with the Knicks looking for their coach. They have been denied. I can't get it out. Permission for the top candidates they wanted to interview. I mean, they wanted to talk to Ime Udoka of the Rockets and Chris Finch of the Timberwolves, and both teams are basically unwilling to let them actually be candidates for the Knicks coaching position.
Well, a report came out they wanted to give the job to Jason Kidd. That's the guy who they really want. Ime Udoka, I can understand. He was with the Celtics. He's showing himself to be a heck of a coach. Look what he's done with the Houston Rockets.
Right.
He's showing himself to be a heck of a coach. He elevated the Rocket team.
He did.
But look, the Celtics won the NBA championship after they moved on from him.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, Chris Finch, fine for him with the Timberwolves. They went out in 5 games to OKC. Did he really bring out the best in that team? I'm not saying he's not a good coach. I mean, he's a good coach. And Jason Kidd, what the heck has Jason Kidd ever won? He went to the finals 1 year with Dallas last year, and it wasn't close. They lost in 5 games to the Celtics. Jason Kidd is a competent coach, but Sonja, why are we hot on the trail of these guys?
I know. They seem stressed, but guess what? Dallas is trying to block him from talking to the Knicks too. So Jason Kidd is going to be unlikely. So they're going to have to look elsewhere. I don't know where they would get a coach, but you know what, Jack? We said this because when we talked about him possibly being fired before the finals were over, you literally said, where would they even get a coach? You got a coach that got your team to the finals. At the worst, Jack, they're the third or fourth worst team in the league right now, the Knicks, because they were so close to the championship.
Best team in the league. Best team in the league.
Best
Yeah.
team.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
best
No,
team.
no. Yeah, the thing about it too, if I had to advise Jason Kidd, let's say Jason Kidd could hang out with me today, and there was a chance that he could go to the Knicks if he could snap his finger, I'd sit down with him. I'd say, Jason, you'd be taking a job where the coach just got fired for taking his team to the Eastern Conference Finals. So, in other words, you have to get to the finals at least,
At least.
at least for the team to be completely satisfied. And you're with the Dallas Mavericks. You're about to get Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
He could be a complete game
Yep.
changer. You have Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving. You have a good bench there. You have a fan base that likes you a lot, even though you haven't won a championship. You have an organization that obviously reveres you. Why the heck would you want to come to New York outside of the excitement? This is New York, the Garden, the buzz. You're on Broadway. For those just to raise your profile. Oh, I'm the coach of the Knicks, so you need a new challenge in a great position. Why the heck would you want to go? And if you're Dallas, if I'm the Mavs, I call the Knicks very quietly and say, look, if we let you have Jason Kidd, give us Carl Anthony Towns straight out or something along that line. And I do it if I'm the Mavs. There's so many darn coaches out there. If I traded Kidd for Thibodeau, do you think Dallas is going to be any worse off having Thibodeau as their coach as opposed to Kidd? Do you think the Knicks are going to be any better off? But I think it's becoming apparent, Sonia, now that James Dolan's fingerprints might be on this. Because Leon Rose, the GM, they signed Thibodeau to a 3-year extension last summer. And to fire him on top of that, you don't do that unless the owner endorses it. And I think James Dolan at this point more than endorsed it. I think he maybe kind of pushed for it a little bit.
Yeah, and not only that though, Jack, what are your thoughts on not only did they get rid of Thibodeau, but of course Brunson, the assistant coach, they went ahead and got him out, so they eliminated that threat of even being considered as a coach.
I didn't hear that.
Jalen's dad, that was the assistant. He's no longer going to be able to be one of the candidates. You remember we talked about that for a little bit.
No, but he's with the wait, and not as a head coach.
No. Jalen Brunson's dad is no longer with the Knicks team.
I did not hear that, Sonia.
This was let's see. This was last week. Let me see. Let me pull it back up.
I'm questioning. Yeah. I don't believe that happened, Sonia. I mean, I think maybe there was talk about it, but no. My guess is he's going to be on the staff of whoever the new coach is going to be, because Jalen Brunson's the star of that team. They're not just going to coldly fire his dad.
Yeah, I may have. You know what, Jack? Let me look, because I saw. Richard has a question. He said, "Is Durant going to be a Knick?" Durant is up for being traded. There's been talks about him, and Rick wants to know if Kevin Durant's coming to the Knicks.
Well, I want to ask Rick, and he could answer quickly, yes and no. Would it be a really good thing for the Knicks getting Kevin Durant? I'm not sure. I mean, it would slow the Knicks team down a little bit, as far as the running game goes. And Durant obviously would be an asset to a certain point with any team because he's a great individual talent. But look what's happened with the Phoenix Suns. I mean, it's just how would it affect Jalen Brunson, who we were talking about a moment ago, if they get Durant?
So Yeah, I misspoke. He's Rick Brunson's still there, but it's been
Yeah,
questionable
I
because
would
his
say.
relationship with Tom Thibodeau. But let me also mention this to you, Jack. So if they don't go with Brunson, which we talked about that a little
They're
bit
not going to
too,
hire Rick Brunson.
because that
Yeah.
would be it's a difference in being coached by your dad or family member and playing alongside them. That's gonna cause us a scene for nepotism, in my opinion.
They're not going to hire. It's not even a consideration. If Rick Brunson was going to be the Nick coach, he would have gotten the job by now. As
Hmm.
soon as they moved on from Thibodeau, Rick Brunson would have gotten hired. There were rumors swirling around that certain of the players weren't happy with Rick Brunson. And I get the feeling, too, some of them might not have been happy about the Knicks style of play, constantly putting the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands the way that
Right.
they did. So the new coach coming in, he's probably going to change the style of play, kind of spread the wealth around, spread the ball around a little more. Kevin Durant going to the Knicks, but what are the Knicks exactly going to give up to get, you know, to get him? Are they going to give up Josh Hart? They have one number one pick. They could give that up. And would the Knicks be willing to give up a Mitch Robinson for Durant? Which it would be a mistake if they did. I mean, I
It's
know how talented Durant is. I know the good numbers he still puts up. His box score usually looks pretty impressive.
hmm
I just don't get the best feel for, Durant coming to the Knicks. Even though Durant's had kind of, he's done better team wise. He's helped teams more than he's been. I don't want to say hurt them, but he's helped the teams he's been at, with the exception of the Phoenix Suns. Keep in mind with Brooklyn, Kyrie Irving and James Harden were out a good amount of the time. He nearly took them to the NBA Finals, and who knows what could have happened then when Milwaukee beat him in that series. And he was doing it basically without Irving and Harden. And with OKC, where he started out, he got them to their first finals in franchise history alongside Russell Westbrook, which we now see is no easy feat to do. So kudos to Durant for that. And when he went to OKC, when he went to Golden State, they won a couple of championships with Durant there, and then they went to the finals another year in the 3 years he was there. But in all fairness, Golden State was outstanding before Durant got there. They were a championship team. They were a championship team after he left. So Durant fit in nicely, very nicely, but he wasn't the reason that the team was put over the top.
Do you think he's a little overrated now, Jack, with going to once you start going past three teams, it just kind of in my mind diminishes just your value as a player. You just don't have like teams are not going to be so willing to get rid of their star players if they've really done what they need them to do. And they just kind of seem to be a little bit more loyal.
Yeah, sometimes it's the chemistry, the environment that you're in. Like I mentioned a moment ago, you look at Durant's box score, it looks good. But Phoenix was a disaster this year. And if I spoke about Durant 2, 3 years ago, and I said, is he a top 10 player in the NBA? You go, absolutely, without a doubt, he's top five. If this were 5, 6 years ago, you could make an argument even he was the best player in the NBA, perhaps. The moment LeBron was starting to slow down a bit, uh, some people thought Durant was actually the best player. But now if I said to you, Sonia, is Durant a top 10 player? You'd probably say no. You'd probably answer quickly no.
Yeah.
That would be my guess. That would be my guess. I'm not talking for you. And if I said he was a top 20 player, you would start listing maybe the names, and maybe you come to the conclusion he's the 17th best player in
Yep.
the
I was gonna
NBA.
say, you're good, Jack. I was gonna say between 15 and 17. That's exactly right.
Yeah,
Wow.
we'd have to sit down, and we're talking about now. We're
Yeah.
not talking about future. And we're
Right.
talking about
Right.
players who are healthy. We'd probably put him behind Brunson. We'd put him behind Steph Curry, who we would have put Durant ahead of during the
Yeah,
time he
years
was at Golden
ago.
State. We'd put him ahead of Jason Tatum if Tatum is healthy. We'd put him behind Wembanyama. Would we put
Definitely.
him behind Anthony Edwards? I mean, we put
And then you got Cooper Flag
Luka,
coming in.
Jokic.
If Cooper comes in and looks good, then he's gonna move back another slot.
Well, let's not get carried away, Cooper Flag. Let's see what he's going to
I'm
be.
always for the Duke guys. Always for
I
the
mean,
Duke
look
guys.
at Zion Williamson. He was supposed to be a superstar, and
What a mess.
Zion,
What a
you
mess.
know, he yeah, well, Zion's contract is coming up. I don't think the Pelicans are going to sign him. They're going to let him go free agent, I think. In
They would be crazy. They would be crazy to keep him again, Jack. Don't you agree? I mean, this has been not only he's injured every other season or every season,
yeah,
he has literally become, and I hate to say it, he has become the definition of a bust.
no, wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't call him a bust because when Zion is healthy, he's on the court. He's an impact player. And if you get a Zion Williamson and you're a contender and he can keep it together, it could be a major steal because you're getting an all-star when he's healthy. You're getting an all-star and you're getting a guy who could conceivably be the best player on the court if he's healthy, if he's motivated. But when a guy's been injured on and off the whole time and his conditioning and his motivation has been questioned, you've got to, the only way he's going to be effective if he gets in the right situation under the right leadership. You can't count on Zion to go somewhere and be a leader. He has to go somewhere where there's a really strong leader, like a LeBron James. Say what you want about LeBron. LeBron is a pretty strong leader. He wasn't that way with the Heat because his buddy Dwayne Wade was the leader, and Dwayne Wade was a good influence. But at Cleveland, LeBron was the leader. With the Lakers, he's a leader. Yeah, and if he could take a Zion Williamson under his wing, I don't think Zion Williamson would kind of dog it. They're not that he's necessarily dogged it with the Pelicans. You get the feeling Zion hasn't put out as much as he should. He doesn't want it bad enough. He's been doing it on ability in large part.
Yeah, well, we as I always like to say, and I'm gonna have to start coining some of these phrases. The verdict is still out because I like to say certain things, and it literally holds true. So anyway, best of luck to the Knicks as they're continuing to look for their coach, and best of luck to Zion and all the stuff, and of course the Pacers, T Wolves, Thunder game. That lets you know how much I'm even paying attention, Jack.
Well,
Kicks off
no.
tonight.
If the Pacers win, the series is extremely interesting because we'd have to believe the Pacers have a real shot now.
Yeah.
There's an urgency, with the OKC. Wow, we're down 2-1. We could actually lose this series. I mean, the Pacers are going to be hungry and they could start smelling it. But if OKC goes up 2-1, I just don't see it, with the Pacers. And listen, I mentioned Halliburton before. I'm not a Halliburton hater. I mean, I know with his heroics, his charisma, and everything, that he's a heck of a player. But I'm just comparing him to some of the stars in the NBA. He's just not quite on that plateau. He comes a little short, and this is no knock on him at all. He's not a top 10 player in the league. I mean, if I have a chance to have a Halliburton on Anthony Edwards, you offer me one or the other. Anthony Edwards hasn't reached the ceiling yet. He might never. Maybe I overestimate his ceiling, but I think there's a little more upside to Anthony Edwards in the long run. And I'm certainly, and I think Siakam is, a little more valuable to the Pacers if they, actually beat OKC in this series than is Halliburton. But Halliburton kind of gets the buzz, the headlines, with his father, with his heroics, game-winning shots. And he's a heck of a player, Halliburton. I mean, you can't take that away from him. He's just not the type of player who's going to carry a team, even though he could come on at the end of the game and do some amazing things.
Yeah, I mean, it's It's gonna be very interesting if the Pacers get it done. I'm actually pulling for them because they're the team out of the East. I tend to do that anyway. And I just kind of like to root for the underdog. Everybody thought that the Thunder were going to take this thing and run away with it. And I'm just really, hoping. But of course, the next game is going to be extremely pivotal. Let's talk a little baseball, and then we got to switch to the pansy news, the Aaron Rodgers news. Of course, yesterday and a couple of days within the last MLB news, big news. Let me first talk to you about this big thing. The Denzel Clark for the Oakland Athletics. I don't know if you saw that catch, Jack. That catch, I was at the gym and I saw it on ESPN. I was on the treadmill. They have TVs everywhere. I had to slow the treadmill down and take a video of it so that I could talk about that today. So impressive. Elite emerged defender despite his limited time in this league. Definitely his athleticism. This was considered the electric play of the week because he's not only had this play, multiple defensive plays, but that catch was absolutely amazing for the outfielder, Jack. Did you get a chance to see that?
I did, and they showed two other catches he made that was
Yes.
amazing. Let me say about Denzel Clark here. He's like an NFL receiver with a glove on, with a baseball
Yes.
glove on, who's making this phenomenal, crazy catch with the glove on, twisting on the wall. I wonder what type of football player, what type
He
of
jumped
receiver
so
he would be.
high that the height of his jump, that wall is at least what, 6 feet, Jack?
Well, he used the wall, and let me tell you what scared the heck out of me, Sonia. He was hanging on the top of the wall. I was scared he would fall over and
Yeah.
injure himself. Can you
Yeah.
imagine he fell on the other side and
Yes.
landed?
He was
And
literally right there. I was like, he's gonna go over.
I got to tell you, maybe they should have padding on the other side of the wall. But what are the chances he could play 40 years and the guy's not going to fall over that wall? I mean, what a catch. That was I didn't see it during the sports segment. I'm watching the news and they want to show this crazy baseball catch on the regular news,
Oh,
So I stopped. It got my attention. This is the regular news and they want to show a catch. Let me see
yeah.
this. And the way he scaled the wall, the way he turned his body, phenomenal. And there were a couple of other sensational catches. I mean, what can you say? It's amazing, really amazing. It's when you make a catch too. If you want to talk about the most famous catch in baseball history, most famous, it would be in the 1954 World Series when Willie Mays made an over the shoulder catch and the ball hit the center field.
Ooh.
Now, the reason it was so famous is because we had never seen anything like it to that point. Okay? But now you see catches like that made. If that same catch was made in the World Series this year, we'd say, "Oh, a very nice catch, a beautiful catch," but it wouldn't be a legendary catch. But the catch made by Clark, I mean, was off the rails. I mean, just off the rails, Sonia.
Yeah, and I saw an image while you were speaking about the Willie Mays catch because I was thinking about that same thing. Some pundits were actually talking about that in the same breath. So this says a lot about Denzel, and his future in the league. Because, like I said, has not been in the league at all long, but has already definitely made a name for himself. So kudos to him, and that's big that he made not just sports news but to make the regular news itself is pretty big, Jack.
Yeah, I'm taking a look. I'm taking a look now. Forgive me for tuning in. Wow, how high that guy got,
He
and
said, "Were
to
you
back
at the game?"
hand it twist around. It's like, oh,
Rick said, "Were you at that game, Jack, with Willie Mays?"
was I at that game? Well, I tried to get tickets, Rick, but they sold out at the Polo Grounds. I was actually at the. I'm ashamed to say, when I was a little kid, I got to the Polo Grounds before it closed with the New York Mets.
Oh, That's so cute, Jack.
Yeah.
All right, let's also talk about, of course, so kudos to Denzel. Shohei Ohtani threw a bullpen session with a return to the mound before the All-Star break, considered north of zero. And Roman Anthony, the MLB's top prospect, made his highly anticipated debut for the Red Sox, getting his first major league hit in his second game. And then let's talk about Aaron Judge
Well,
hit a
Roman
massive
Anthony,
400.
opposite. Oh, I'm sorry to cut in. I just want to comment on Roman Anthony, opposite field, hit to left field. It
Yes.
was nice seeing his family in the stands, the anticipation. There's nothing like your first hit.
Yeah, nothing like I was gonna let you talk about that, Jack, because I was gonna bring that up first. I was getting
Oh,
the
okay.
three putters, but I got you because that was exciting. Nothing like having your very first hit.
You
That's
gotta
big,
understand,
and his family was there.
I worked with Mac all these years. Mac would go over the topics and then he'd switch to lacrosse or something. I'm only kidding about lacrosse. And I'd never get the opportunity to get in the word. Yeah.
I'm gonna make
So
sure you get in the
yeah, I'm
words.
giving you the biggest compliment, treating you the same way I did Mac.
I really appreciate that. I
That's
would
the
expect
Linda
no
out there,
different.
if you're listening, Linda.
I would expect no different. I appreciate that. Of course, Mac the Great. We always honor him in all of our shows. The producer and our friend extraordinaire. So Aaron Judge hit a massive, another big hit, 469-foot home run for the Yankees against the Royals. I mean, this dude literally hit this ball into the next zip code.
When he hit the ball, I'm watching on TV, like my mouth went open. I knew, wow, that ball, it's going to take forever to land. I want to say something. My boyhood idol was Mickey Mantle. Not,
Oh,
Mickey Mantle was the guy to me. And don't get me wrong, Mickey Mantle wasn't the nicest person, especially to the fans. It left a lot to be desired. You realize that as you get older. So he was a symbol to me more or less when I was a kid. And he was an idol to all of us. But Mickey Mantle was the one who kind of invented, or they said, hit the tape measure home runs. Tape measure home runs, they say how long they were. And Mickey Mantle
morning break.
reportedly hit a home run that was measured, they said, at 565 feet. Don't believe that for a second. That's one of the great myths. Mickey Mantle did not hit a home. I didn't see it, but I could tell you without a doubt, he didn't hit a home run anywhere close to 565 feet. What happened? The ball hit somewhere and started rolling. It maybe rolled a while too. But Aaron Judge's home run was about as long, nearly as long as you can actually hit, a home run.
Yeah, I mean, definitely big hits, and I always hear a lot about Mickey Mantle. That's one for the legends that never his name will never, just fade into darkness because he was such a great player.
I
I'm
was
sure that was
never.
exciting for you to be able to have that experience, Jack, and to actually, have seen him during his time of play.
Well, could I tell you something? What Mickey Mantle and Aaron Judge and a very select few batters have in common, Sonia. We'll have the game. The game will be on TV. Will be something. We'll have something to do. Let's say it's a kid, and the kid is called. Oh, dinner's ready. The kid will say after Aaron Judge is up. Aaron Judge is up now. As soon as he's done, I'm coming to the table. That's how it was with Mickey Mantle.
Oh,
Would be called.
wow.
I'd be called for dinner, but Mickey Mantle would be up. You don't
Yeah.
leave the TV. You don't shut the TV off with Mickey Mantle up. You wait till he's done, then you shut the TV off and you sit down for dinner.
I'm
Okay,
gonna
that would
tell
be
you.
whatever. Even as an adult, Sonia, I've got a bunch of stuff to do. My wife is going to be calling me. Can I get this or that or do something? If Aaron Judge is up, I'll say, wait, I'll be there soon. And
Yeah,
I'm waiting on Aaron Judge's at bat to be complete. No other play on the Yankees am I waiting in that situation, unless, of course, the bases are loaded, there are two outs, the game is on the line, or whatever. But for Aaron Judge, no matter what the situation is in the game, the Yankees could be winning 12-1. and he can be up, but I gotta wait for his at bat to be complete. He's one of the rare players you do that for in Major League history.
You know what, Jack? One thing I always like about when we have our shows together, or anytime I really talk to you, is you are in that, in that lifespan where you could kind of relate with how I was raised, because I was raised by my grandparents. And so I always tell my friends I kind of skipped a generation, because technically, if you're raised by your grandparents, you're raised like your parents were. And so my dad, I just remember my dad. I live with my dad and his mom, but on the weekends I would go visit my mom's parents. And so my mom's parents were military, and my grandmother was extremely loving but very strict. Everybody knew that. And so when you mentioned the TV being on, for before dinner, or being turned off, or being moved, that was the setup. Like, we literally were not allowed until we got older to watch TV while we ate. You came, you set the table, you sat down as a family. I remember being up for setting the table ahead of time, and only my grandfather, the TV was positioned where only my grandfather could see it. My sister and I couldn't see it. My grandmother couldn't see it, because you sit down. So if you're watching a game and these players are up, and you're like, oh no, if I go sit down for dinner, I'm not going to see this play. So you just gave me a moment of nostalgia just thinking about that. That's such a great memory.
And with your idol, you grew up a Brave fan, correct?
I grew up a Braves fan. Yeah, we didn't have a team in North Carolina.
Was Hank Aaron your favorite player?
He is, of all time.
Why wasn't Hank Aaron ever given a cameo on the show Happy Days? Happy Days originated from Milwaukee, and I had the perfect episode. Hank Aaron's car breaks down, and Fonzie's passing on his motorcycle, and he stops up and gets Hank Aaron.
I remember Happy Days with the Fonz. That used to be my show. I love Happy Days, Jack. That was my show.
Well, there was a bunch of kids and families from Milwaukee, and they never had on hammering Hank Aaron for one show. Like I said, have him drive his car, has a flat tire on the side, and Fonzie in the leather jacket bumps into him, and maybe Hank has him come to the ballpark. It would have been, fun.
Maybe because they're so Brewers oriented, they just couldn't see having a Brave on there.
Yeah, it was a bit racist at that time, TV too, the way it was done. We gotta, as Howard Cosell said, we gotta tell it like it is.
Tell it like it is. Tell it like it is. Speaking, and okay, Steve-O says he was a Braves fan as a kid. Yeah, Justice. So I was gonna say David Justice was my second favorite player. I remember when he married Halle Berry.
Whoa. Lance Armstrong was a cheater. Bad guy. How on earth this judge, Steve, I'll remind you of Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong lacked character.
You weren't gonna get.
Judge has high character. Well, I don't get this, the comparison. And Lance Armstrong was a cheater. He was caught, basically a disgraced cheater, and he tried to sue people when he was in the wrong. Lance Armstrong's not a good guy. I mean,
he'll come back
maybe he's got his life together, Lance Armstrong. I hope so. He wasn't a good guy. Maybe he's turned into a good guy. Who knows? Everyone deserves another chance, unless they've done something so horrific. But Aaron Judge has been nothing but class and character.
Well, I guess he'll answer that in a minute, Jack. Let's move on to the NFL, because we got about 20 minutes left here. We always find all the good stuff to talk about here this morning. So we'll talk about the pansy in a moment, but let me get your opinion on this. Okay, mandatory mini camps have started. You got 3 major players that are sitting out because of contract disputes. TJ Watt, one of them for the Steelers, McLaurin for the Commanders, and Trey Hendrickson. It continues to stay out for the Bengals. What are your thoughts on these 3 players? Now they're being fined, Jack. They're starting to collect fines because this is mandatory and they're not showing up because of this. I think the most influential missing piece is the TJ Watt holdout.
Sonia, traditionally I've backed players. I really have. And I've gotten mad at fans who call players greedy. But I don't get this,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I blame the teams partly because they've given in to players. You sign a contract, unless it's a horrendous contract, like, and I'll give you an example Magic Johnson, when he was a young player with the Lakers, he reportedly signed a 25-year deal for $1 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't hold him to that. I would, and then if I'm the commissioner, I'd say the market completely changed. You got to tear that contract up.
Right.
But
Right.
these guys, TJ Watt signed a contract, an extension. Trey Hendrickson signed an extension. McLaurin, I'm not sure his situation completely, but you have a contract that you
Mm-hmm.
willingly signed. You have to know that the more years that go by, the market is going to change somewhat. And
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to be the highest paid guy, but you sign the contract for security and you're getting paid a heck of a lot of money. Now, the teams could redo your contract and give you more money. But why should they be the only ones taking the risk? What happens if the team came to the players, a player? Let me reverse it, Sonia, to you and said, and they told TJ Watt, we're not allowing you to come to training camp unless you take 1 year off the extension you signed
Oh
because
wow.
players aren't getting as much. TJ said, we signed
Mm-hmm.
the contract. You got to
Mm-hmm.
honor it. Why should the teams assume the risk? We got to keep signing these guys to extensions over and over and over until they're injured and can't perform anymore. And then we got to pay them a couple of years for doing nothing. It's ridiculous. I would, I'd find TJ Watt. I'd find Trey Hendricks.
Mm-hmm.
Stay home, retire, don't play football, don't play, retire. And if they do show up and they don't perform up to standards, guess what? They're not going to get a deal in the future because their performance would have went down. So no one's going to give them the money in the future. And if they come with a bad attitude where they're giving the coaches a hard time, you know what I do? I put their butt on the practice squad, or I suspend them for talking back to the coaches, suspend them without pay. I make I make life miserable for them if they try to make it for me. I'm not putting up with this, Sonia. I am sick of this. You sign a contract, and unless it's a bad contract, a ridiculously bad one, but I don't want to hear, well, I'm Trey Hendrickson, I'm getting paid 15.8 million. The Bengals are willing to raise him, by the way, into about 25 million reportedly, and so on. But no, he wants the 35
Right.
million. You know, he they don't have to do any of that. They could just franchise tag him next year as well. I mean, I just don't like it on the part of the players here. I mean, we're asking the teams to assume all the risk, but we're not asking the players. We're asking the team, and I'm going to tell you, when you keep extending these guys and giving in to them, you know what happens? Teams get burned at the end of these
Mm-hmm.
contracts, always. And I don't want to hear you're paying a guy for 4 years to get 2 or 3 good years out of him. No, if I'm paying him top dollar for 4 years, I want 4 good years out of him. I don't want 2 or 3 good years out of him.
Yeah, people have, it's kind of like what Steve O said. Contracts don't consider the outplaying your contract, or I would say not necessarily outplaying, but say for instance they get injured, like Jack says. These players have one good season, and then all of a sudden they see someone else at another team get played this, and then they're ready to do this. Now, if Trey Hendrickson got this contract the way he wanted it, Jack, he'd be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league because he said the Bengals promised him. He had 17 and a half sacks last season, and they promised him verbally that they would pay him handsomely. But I will say this: if you're going to extend contracts and give extra money, then I like what some teams have done where they put this clause in there, like Dallas did, that you have to play a certain amount of snaps. You have to play a percentage of the plays to get your check. And if that way, like you said, if they are subpar or they get injured and they're sitting on the sidelines, you're not collecting that same check anymore because you're no longer able to contribute to the team what you were once contributing.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you, Sonia. You know what I'd like to see one of these elite players do? Go to the team. I'm TJ Watt. I'm Trey Hendrickson. I'm going to sign a 1-year contract. Okay? And at the end of this year, I'm going to then keep signing 1-year contracts every year the rest of my career. 1-year contracts. And you want to know something? The team would give them top dollar. They would be like TJ Watt would be the highest paid defensive player in the game for 1 year. Trey Hendrickson would be up there for 1 year getting that type of money. And guess what? If these guys perform the way they say they are going to and have, then this next year, they'll get their money again next year, and they'll get it the year after. But the reason they don't sign 1-year deals to players because they want security in case they get hurt. That's the real reason. And you want to know something? Why can't the teams have security in case the player gets hurt? That's why the teams are enforcing their situation in case the player gets hurt. But the player wants the team to take all the risk, but they're not willing to.
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't know. And I didn't know about McLaurin having this standoff with the Commanders. I mean, the Commanders make a good playoff run, came out of nowhere. And now, that's what happens, Jack. These teams that go to that far in the playoffs, the NFC championship game, everybody wants to get paid. And, McLaurin, you haven't been in the league long enough to be making these types of demands.
Well, I'm going to tell you, the only time I'm sympathetic towards the player, if they sign a horrendous deal, a long-term deal, like Scottie Pippen did with the Bulls. He signed a 7-year deal,
yes,
$2.8 million a year. The owner, Jerry Reisendorf, didn't want him to sign it. At the time, he said, look, you're selling yourself short, but if you sign it, I'm going to hold you to it. And he held Pippen to it. But even then, they could have held Pippen to the contract. And what they could have done was add on another couple of years at blockbuster money to kind of make up for what he did. Actually, Jerry Reisendorf, the owner, in a way did. When at the end of Pippen's career, they signed Pippen for a couple of years. They gave him like $10 million a year, which was really good money at the time, especially at the end of Pippen's career. A 2-year deal because they knew the Bulls, they'd underpaid Pippen. So Reisendorf kind of wanted to make it up to him a little bit.
Yeah, Steve-O has a good point. He talks about the contracts would have to be fully guaranteed the first year anyway to work. 1-year contracts would have to be fully guaranteed. Kind of like Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, they'd have to be fully guaranteed. No. If I'm TJ Watt, and I don't know what he's looking for. Let's say he's looking for $35 million a year, 35 to 40 million. If I'm I'm sorry to cut in, Sonny, but if I'm the Bengals, I tell him, I'm going to pay you 1 year contract, fully guaranteed $35 million. That's it, the 1 year. Report to camp. And if he's not going to report to camp, what's his reason, Sonia? Is he scared he's going to get injured, or is he scared he's not going to perform this year and that his market value is going to decrease in the future? Is he scared I might suffer a career-ending injury, so I want a longer deal? Well, guess what? The team might be scared you could suffer career-ending injury. They're allowed to think the way you do and act the way you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things, though. But, my mindset is going to still continue to be the same, that it basically comes down to greed, honestly. That's just my thoughts on it. I feel like it's literally like they see one person get paid, and they're like, okay, then I should get paid as well. And it doesn't really necessarily mean, performance all the time. It just that's just my opinion.
Well, I think it's status, Sonia. That's the whole thing about it. Let's say, you're doing a show with someone else and you're giving meal money to go enough to go to a diner and buy a
Hmm.
meal. And then you see someone in another show in this network being given money to go to a fancy steakhouse. You may have thought I was happy to go to the diner all along, but hey, I'm entitled to go. I should be able to go to
Exactly.
the
Why
steakhouse.
not? Bet on
Because
myself.
it's status. It's a status thing. Every one of these players, virtually, they got enough money to last a lifetime. Trey Hendrickson and T.J. Watt and McClellan, and they've made enough to last a lifetime unless they throw the money away. But it's status. Why is one player going to hold out a superstar for 40 million instead of 35 million? Is it the $5 million more? Is it the status of being number one
Yeah,
or
being
close
number
to it?
one. And then somebody else comes along and then they got to supersede that and so on and so forth. It becomes a domino effect. Speaking of 1 year fully guaranteed, Aaron Rodgers did make his debut, Jack, to the mandatory mini camp for the Steelers on Tuesday, and had his first press conference and revealed that he got married like around, I guess, a couple of months ago, Jack. So he's got a wife. They think he married some lady named Brittany who prefers to stay out of the limelight. He did say that's who he was dating back in December. Maybe this is his personal stuff that he's talked about. He's had to do it, but he's officially a Steeler. He's indicated his commitment to learning Arthur Smith, former Falcons coach, now the offensive coordinator. He's basically verbally told everybody he's eager to learn the Smith's way of offense there and working with his new teammates, including interacting with the rookie Will Howard. So he's expressed his desire to help him. It's excited that he actually has a whole different attitude seemingly than when he was with your Jets. I mean, he didn't even want to come to you guys and stuff. I'm kind of, $13 million 1 year. What are your thoughts? Your line is muted, Jack.
I'm glad you're finally coming around on Aaron Rodgers. I mean, never mind that you didn't congratulate him on getting married. Maybe you see during this time he didn't sign with the Steelers, he was a newlywed.
Yeah.
He wanted to adjust. It's his first time he's married. Was adjusting a little to married life. Steve-O mentioned a good point that we didn't put on the thing. See, that Rogers was polite. It only took 13 million, 19.8 million with incentives. No top
Thanks.
quarterback does that. He worked with the Steelers. He took low money. Think of that. Think of the if the Steelers have a big year, he's going to be underpaid. Rogers. He's going to be vastly underpaid if he
What?
has a really good year. Vastly underpaid. Let
Well,
me
let me
say
just
that.
say this real quick. The Lions, like Brent pointed out, the Lions have paid Barnes, and now Alex Anzalone wants more money. So now you got Rodgers with this money, and then like Richard just said, how soon before he starts asking to bring his cronies? Yeah, this money is not going to come unattached, Jack. He's going to be wanting to get Devontae Adams or somebody. He wants to be Tom Brady so bad that he wants to bring other
Well,
people, Jack.
Devontae Adams was with the Rams, and if
For
the Rams
now.
are counting on him. So, but let me say this: while we were wondering what was going on with Aaron Rodgers, reportedly the Steelers were confident all along that he was going to sign with them. They were in communication with him. He hadn't officially signed. So Rodgers didn't miss OTAs with the Steelers or anything because his name wasn't on the contract. He wasn't
Yeah.
officially on the team. So how was he holding the Steelers up? It wasn't like he wasn't reporting to camp. Now that he signed with them, he's all in. He's in camp. Okay. Yeah, I don't know whether you saw him hanging out with DK Metcalf on the golf cart going around.
No.
The two of them are laughing. His arm was around Metcalf.
Oh
Metcalf
my
was
God.
laughing,
Oh, I'm
and
gonna be
they
sick,
were kind
Jack.
of hooking up. But I will say this: Rodgers is going to be up against it. They don't have a running game. And
They
outside
don't.
of DK Metcalf, their receiving cores are nothing to talk about. I mean, they moved on from Pickens, and I kind of wonder, did they move on from Pickens because Mike Tomlin felt he wasn't going to be a fit with Rodgers because Pickens might have a tantrum if the ball's not coming his way or whatever. And I have a lot of trust in Mike Tomlin, a lot of trust. Him and Rodgers should get along fine. Arthur Smith, former Falcon head coach, the offensive coordinator. It should all be fine. The question is this: how's he physically going to perform? He showed mobility last year, believe it or not, running with the ball, but he is 41. I
Yeah,
mean, how good is he really going to be? It's a question. But I'm going to tell you what's must watch. Game number one, Steelers and
yeah,
Jets.
yes.
Imagine that.
Versus Justin Fields and his
Justin Fields.
former squad.
Wow. I for a second I forgot about that. I'm thinking the big storyline, Rodgers against the Jets, but Fields is going to want to impress
Yep.
against the Steelers. And Aaron Rodgers is one of these players that I root for. Let's be honest about it. But I can't be rooting for him game one. I got to be rooting for the Jets to sack him several times, shut down the Steeler offense. So I'll be rooting for Justin Fields in that game.
It's funny you said
All
sack
games
him a
for
few times.
Justin
I'm
Fields.
concerned about that, Jack. I'm gonna be honest. I was gonna ask you, Aaron Rodgers, like you said, he's 41, and 41 in an athlete's years is different from 41, like a regular lay person. And so Aaron Rodgers has had a significant injury with that Achilles. He cannot afford to go to Pittsburgh and not be protected by that O line. He's no longer running. He's got to be protected more in the pocket because one bad snap is all it's going to take.
No, the Achilles isn't an issue anymore. He played all the last year. That's old news. It's old
Yeah,
news.
but I'm saying
He's,
with a new team, he played last year, but the Jets O line protected him a little better. He didn't. Did he take a lot of snaps?
Listen,
A
Rodgers
lot of
mixed
sacks.
it up at times. Rodgers even went for tackle on one play. Rodgers ran a play and he blocked hard even last year. No, he's an older player, but it's not as important, I think, as the wide receiver position. Player his age, a wide receiver, you slow down. It's still very important in
Yes,
quarterbacks to
he's gonna be
slow
42 in
down.
December, Richard.
We'll
That's
see. It
right.
is an issue. It is an issue,
He was
and we'll
sacked
see.
40 times while playing for you guys. 40 times. I just looked it up.
So he
So
held up. He held
yeah, I
up
guess his old
outside of
body
that
can
game.
take that. But Steve-O said the Steelers tried to sign Matt Stafford first. So I'm just still not 100% sold on their decision with Rodgers. Rodgers is gonna have to go in there and basically turn that team around.
Well, do they have the weapons? The Steelers have insurance at quarterback with Mason Rudolph, maybe one of the better backups in the
Thank you, Richard.
league. And they got Will Howard, so they drafted a young quarterback. Even though it's a bit of a project, he's got a really good arm and national champion from Ohio State. So they've they've got the insurance policies, to back Rodgers up.
Yeah, they got the back the thing. Of course, Richard says fun show this morning. Richard, Steve-O,
Thanks, Richard.
Brent, Bistrilla, always great having you all on this morning. Jack, always a great show, fun time with you. We'll see you guys on Friday with Keith Engel joining us. Lots of shows throughout the day. The Roku Network, National Streaming Sports, Elite Sports and Entertainment, and Huddle Sports Network. Jack and I will bid you all a good day.